Hi and good day everyone. Today, my friend and I, Rosenda 23 binti Abu Bakar 261600 and my name is Winnie Jin 262020. We will present about the chapter 13, which is radiation hazards. What is radiations? Radiations is the emissions or transmissions of energy in the form of wave or particles through the space or through a materials medium. For example, like the chemicals. Normally, the radiations that we receive from the outer space is called the cosmic radiations or cosmic rays. At the same time, the radiation is classified as being either non-ionizing radiations or ionizing radiations. So for the non-ionizing radiations, the radiations that is not caused by any electric charge and the result of electromagnetic non-ionizing energy that is transmitted through the space without the movement of matters within the space, and it has both heat and non-heat transfer, and sometimes we can see these non-ionizing radiations visually, like colors, heat wave on surface on the roads. So here are the examples for non-ionizing radiations, which are microwave, radio wave, infrared, and ultraviolet. So here below here are the energy wave, which are wavelength. We can see the radio wave. The length of the radio is 10 cm, while the microwave length is normally the non-ionizing radiations is a longer wavelength with the lower frequencies and lower energy. So it means that it does not penetrate deep into the tissues, but it will increase the risk of damage of our eyes and skins. So next, for the ionizing radiations, the radiations that has an electric charge or transform into the ions. It will produce the ions in metals at molecular levels, and it has both heat and non-heat transfer, as same with the non-ionizing radiations. While the ionizing radiations, every time a radioactive atom breaks down, knocking off nearby the electrons, this will build up enough charge to create a pulse and therefore a click on the judge's counter. Each click indicates the single atom has decayed, and so more clickings means they have more atoms and therefore they have caused more radiations. So we can only see it visually if it is charged by intensive electrical force, mainly used in the nuclear power generation plant. So here are the examples for ionizing radiations, which are alpha particles, beta particles, neutrons radiations, which known as atom bombs, X radiations, gamma radiations, photon laser radiations, and electron laser radiations. So this is the electromagnetic spectrum. The electromagnetic spectrums were used to describe the entire range of light that exists. So the EM radiation is a form of the energies that is all around us, and these energies normally will travel in a wave and spans a broad spectrum from a very long radio wave to very short gamma rays. So here we can see for the non-ionizing, they have a low frequencies, while for the ionizing radiations, they have high frequencies. So the energies of the radiation show of the spectrum will increase from the left to the right as the frequency rises. And normally the human's eyes only can detect only a small portions of these a spectrum which called the visible light. So a radio detects different portions of the spectrum, and an X-ray machine will use yet another portion. So by using this electromagnetic spectrum, we will know how many and how much of the radiations that will affect to our health. So now I will focus on the ionizing radiations in terms and concepts. They have 9 terms and concepts in ionizing radiations. The first one is radiations, which is contain the powerful nucleus particles such as alpha rays, beta rays, gamma rays, X-ray, neutrons, high-speed electrons, and high-speed protons. So the second one is radioactive material, which is the materials that emit the electromagnetic emissions resulting from the spontaneous nucleus disintegrations. So here are the radiation elements that are found naturally in the environment, which are uraniums, poloniums, radons, and so on. So for the poloniums, which normally will occur in naturally at a very low concentrations in the environment, while the radons, which is the gas that has no color, smell, or taste. So for the second one is the restricted area, which is the prohibited areas to protect employees from exposures to a radioactive material. So the fourth one is unrestricted area, which is the area that are not controlled strictly because there is no radioactive hazard. The next one is dose, which is the amount of the ionizing radiations that will absorbed by some of the body or entire body. So in addition for the rate, which is the acronym of the radiation absorbs dose, which is the size of the ionizing radiation dose absorbed by the body's tissues. Next one is the range, which is the size of ionizing radiation dose in the body tissues. Next one is radiation area, which will affect radiation hazard area when dose absorption is 5 milliriems within 1 hour or 100 milliriems within 5 consecutive days. And the last one is high radiation area, which will affect the radiation hazard area where the dose absorption is 100 milliriems within 1 hour. So I will continue with this slide. So the radiation is used in medicines to generate the electricity to make the food last longer and to sterilize equipment for the carbon dating of archaeological finds and many other reasons. So we know the ionizing radiation happens when the atomic nucleus of an unstable atom decay and start releasing the ionizing particles. So when these particles come into contact with organic material, like the human tissues, so they will damage them if the levels are high enough in a short period of time. So this can lead to burns, problems with the blood, gastrointestinal system, cardiovascular, and central nervous system, cancer, and sometimes death. So this radiation is normally managed safely, but its use also entails a risk. So if an accident happens, for example the earthquake in Fukushima, Japan in 2011, or the explosions at Chernobyl, Ukraine in 1986, these radiations can become dangerous. So here are the reds and rams. For the reds, they have great grace and patience exhausted those, while the rams got the silvers and bronze energies. So this is the international system units of radiation dose expressed in terms of exhausted the energies per unit mass of tissues. So the grace is the unit of absorbed dose and has replaced the rate. So normally the one grace is equal to 1 joule or kilograms and also equal to hundreds rads. So here are the units for the regions red or gray, ram or silvers. So for the regions, the amount of the ionization in air due to the gamma rays. The second one is the red or gray, which will absorb those and the amount of radiation energy absorbed in the materials. And the third one is gram of silvers. The human's body equipment dose and the magnitudes of the effect on the human's body. So here is the radiation dose to entire bodies in the millisieverts. So we can know how many or how much radiation that the cause in will affect in our entire body. So for example, we will know the arm, leg or bone densities area X-ray. They have caused 0.001 millisieverts. Well, for the chest X-ray, it causes 0.1 millisieverts, and so on. So based on we normally will use these units, and we will know how much we will know radiation dose to our body. So now I will continue with types of radiations. There are 3 types. The first one is alpha particles, which are the positively charged and made up 2 protons and 2 neutrons from the atom's nucleus. So the alpha radiation consists of heavy, positively charged particles emitted by atoms of elements like uranium and radium. So even though the alpha are very energetic, they use up their energies over short distance and it's unable to travel very far from the atoms, and it will stop by the sheet of paper or outer layer of skin. However, if the alpha emitted material are taken into a body by breathing, eating, or drinking, they can expose the internal tissues directly and may, therefore it will cause the biological damage. So the second one is the beta particles, which are small, fast-moving particles with a negative electrical charge that are emitted from an atom's nucleus during the radioactive decay. For the beta particles, this is more penetrating than alpha, but which are less damage to living tissues and DNA because the ionizations they produce are more widely spaced, and it can be stopped by a layer of the proteins or by a thin layer or substance like aluminum. So some beta particles are capable of penetrating the skin and causing damage like skin burns. So the third one is gamma rays, which are the waveless packets of energy called photons. These gamma rays are the electromagnetic radiation that stimulates to X-ray, light, and radio wave. And the gamma rays, depending on their energies, and can pass right through the human's body, but can be stopped by the thick walls of concentrates or leads. So there can cause ionizations that damage the tissues and DNA. So another one is X-ray. They are similar to gamma rays in that they are photons of pure energy, while the X-ray are emitted from the process outside the nucleus, but gamma rays they originated inside the nucleus. So here we can see the alpha rays. They have the ways of penetrating the radiations go through the human's bodies. So they can stop it by the paper. Well, for the beta rays, they were stopped by the thin aluminiums, while the gamma rays, they were stopped by the thick lead. Next, I will continue with managing radiation in hospital. So they are the source of ionized radiations in hospital, like the CT scan, X-ray scan, mammography scan, radioactive isotopes liquids. Why? Because the medical radiations involve applying radiations such as X-ray, gamma rays, or beta rays. Injecting the radiation isotopes into the bodies or administering them orally to take imaging, the study or treat diseases such as cancer. So these radiations will give the impacts for the X-ray technicians, patients, and other hospital staff. How? Because the daily dose with the unprotected by PPE, radioactive isotopes leaks, and medical radiation explosions. So radiation exposures to workers and the exposure dose to host body do not exceed 3 rams, and the employers need to keep and update the record of radiation exposure. So here we can see for the CT scan functions on CT scan room, we see that this area is safe because it leads of the insulated room, whereas for this area which consists the radiation risk because it leads a insulated wall. In the next one, I will continue the managing radiations in industrial. There are some sources of ionized radiations for industrial skills. The first one is nucleonic gauges, which is the instruments that use a radioisotope source to measure the materials and products, which are used to ensure the optimal coating thicknesses such as metal coatings. The second one is the moisture gauges are used in construction material asphalt and concrete, glass, minerals processing, chemicals and foods. The third one is radioisotopic gauges, which are used to measure the mass per units of area in manufacturing aluminum foils, papers, and steel plates. The fourth one is the nuclear power plant, which is to generate the electricity. Why? Because the industrial radiations are involved in the appliance of radiations such as the X-ray, gamma rays, or the beta rays that absorb to the body and it will cause disease. So this also gives the big impacts for the radiation technicians or staff in the affected area and the public. How? Because due to their daily dose that are protected by the PPE and the radioactive isotopes leaks and the radiation explosions that is public in risk. The radiation exposed to the workers and the exposure dose to the whole bodies do not exceed 3 rams, and the employees also needs to keep an updated record of the radiation exposed, and at the same time the workers who manages in these radiations in the industrial, they need to wear the PPE, so it will protect them. So next one, I will talk about the precautions and personal monitoring. Here we were talking about the precautions and personal monitoring for employers and employees. The first one is the precautions monitoring for employers, which the employees will identify the hazard sources of radiations, and the employees also need to provide the appropriate protective equipment for the employees, which provide the appropriate equipment which can avoid some accident occur in the workplace. The third one is the warning signs and labels they must provide in their working place. Next, the standard color schemes, which is the purple colors or magentas with the yellow background. The last one is the other information on the labels, which the quantity of the radioactive materials, type of radioactive materials, and the radioactive tanks release date. So beside which will talk about the instructions to the employees. As the employees will be briefed about the assessments of the hazards and protect themselves, which is the precautionary measures and PPEs. So the employees also will make a report on any radiation exposures that occurs in their workplace. Besides, employees must comply or obey with the company's operating regulations, which will wear the PPEs they have stated in the policies. So the last one is notify the hazard risk or potential leakages like the facilities, leaflets, and magazines and others. So here are the PPEs that the employees that need to wear or use during their workplace. This is the cautious side and the labels that need to provide in the workplace. Radiation warning signs is to identify the radiation hazard through the symbol or the hazard warning. So the warning signs must be posted in each controlled radiation area, which to indicate the presence and the degree of the hazards that present in the area. So here are some types of the caution signs and labels that need to provide in the working area, and the employees must know and alert with the cautions like the UV radiation hazard, X-ray radiations, ultraviolet radiation hazards, and so on. So normally we can see these hazards are the things that surround with us, and the shape is to highlight a hazardous conditions. So the symbol should be drawn within a black equilateral triangles and can include a yellow background. So by having these caution signs and labels in the working areas, so the employees will alert and it can prevent some radiation hazards occur around us. So that's all for my part, and I will pass to my friend.
Next is evacuation warning signal. This warning signal should have the mid-frequency complex sound wave amplitude modulated at the subsonic frequency, and then this complex sound wave in free space shall have the fundamental frequency between 450 and 500 Hz modulated at a subsonic rate between 4 and 5 Hz. And then the signal also should not be less than 75 decibel at every location where an individual, which is worker, may be present whose immediate, rapid, and complete evacuation is essential. Okay, there are some basic requirements that occupational safe and health administration that stipulates one, which is a sufficient number of signal generator should be installed to cover all personnel who may need to be evacuated, and then the signal also should have the unique sound and unduplicated and instant recognizable in the plan where it is located. And then the sounds of the signal should be long enough in duration to ensure that all potential affected employees are able to hear it. And then lastly, the signal responds automatically without the need for human activation, and it also must be fit with backup power if when blackout. So when blackout, the backup power can support the warning signal. Okay, there are some specific requirements to instructing and informing to the personnel. Firstly, all employees should inform of existing radiation hazard and where they assess the extent of the hazard and how to protect themselves from the hazards. Okay, for example, the organization should tell the precaution and personal protective equipment to the employees so they can use that equipment to protect themselves from the hazard. And then all employees advised of any report of radiation exposure requested by other employees. And then all the employees must be ready to access to instruction of personnel posting and any related company operating procedures. Okay, next is the storage and disposal of radioactive material. The danger inherent in storing radioactive material is unrestricted area extend an employee, for example, for a maintenance worker, may unwittingly attempt to move the container and damage it in the process. The process of radioactive material is also a regulated activity. Okay, there are following. States have agreement with the Atomic Energy Commission to dispose of radiation waste pursuant to 27B 42 USC 2021 of the Atomic Energy Act. Okay, what is Atomic Energy Commission? Here I want to explain that. Atomic Energy Commission, which is AEC, is U.S. Federal Surveillance Agency established by the Atomic Energy Act. The function of Atomic Energy Commission is to control development and the production of nuclear weapons, and then it's to direct the research and development of peaceful use for nuclear energy. Okay, next is the way to dispose of the radiation waste. There are two ways, which is transfer to an authorized recipient, and then we need to transfer it, which is the radioactive waste, in a manner approved by any state that have agreement with the Atomic Energy Commission that I mentioned before. Okay, next is notification of accident. Accident is defined by OSHA like the exposure to the whole body of any individual in 25 rams or more of radiation, and then the exposure to skin of the whole body of the workers, which is in 150 rams or more of radiation, any exposure to feet, ankle, hands, and forearm of any individual which is in 375 rams or more of radiation. And then the risk of radioactive material is concentrations which, if averaged over a period of 24 hours only, would exceed 5,000 times the limit specified. Okay, then the notification requirements are easiest to 24 hours in cases where whole body of the employee is exposed in between 4 until 24 rams. Exposure of the skin of the whole body is between 30 until 149 rams. And lastly, the exposure of the feet, ankle, hands, and forearm is between 75 and 374 rams. Okay, next I want to explain about the non-ionizing radiation. Okay, what is non-ionizing radiation? Non-ionization is referred to any types of electromagnetic radiation that does not carry enough energy per quantum, which is photon energy, to an atom or molecule. Instead of proceeding charged ion when passing through metal, non-ionizing electromagnetic radiation has sufficient energy only for excitation, the movement of an electron in the higher energy state, which is the highway to ionized radiation. Okay, the frequency that of the radio frequency electromagnetic radiation, the range is from 30 kilohertz until 300 gigahertz. Electromagnetic field radio frequency range are used for our telecommunication application like our handphone, television, and radio. The human body, like us, absorb the energy from the device that emit radio frequency electromagnetic radiation. The dose of the absorbed energy is estimated using a measure called specific absorption rate (SAR), which is expressed the watt per kilogram of body weight. Electromagnetic radiation is defined according to its wavelength and frequency, which is the number of circles of a wave that pass a reference point per second. Electromagnetic frequencies are described by wavelength in unit called hertz. Okay, here in the picture show the electromagnetic spectrum from the lower energy to higher energy. Okay, next is the types of non-ionizing radiation. Firstly is ultraviolet. As we know, the most common source of ultraviolet is sun. The potential problem when we exposed to ultraviolet is sunburn, skin cancer, and cataracts. Okay, so we want to avoid the problem that can affect our health. We can do the precautionary, like we wear the special sunglasses treated to block out the ultraviolet rays and protective clothing. And then the other source of the ultraviolet is laser, welding arcs, and ultraviolet lamps. For workers management, the organization should make sure their workers wear the sunscreen when working in direct sun, avoid being under sun for a long time, and always keep their workers dehydrated and well rested. And then the next type is infrared radiation. Infrared radiation can create heat. The problem associated with the kind of non-ionizing radiation involve heat stress, dry skin, and our eyes. Primary sources of infrared radiation are high temperature processes such as the production of glass or steel. Indirect sunlight can make our skin, rise the maximum or the highest temperature, which is 40 Celsius, and this converts the absorbed infrared radiation into the heat. Okay, next is laser. Laser is an acronym for light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. A laser is created when the electron in atom, special glasses, crystal, or gas absorb energy from an electrical current or another laser and become excited. The uses of laser is for cutting pulp, which in cutting heavy metal, and then for area mapping, like for architect, geostudy, and then for communication, like us use CD, DVD, for chemistry and surgery, and then for defense, to make weapons. The impact from the laser can make as skin burn, blind, and deaf. For worker management, the organization should make sure that workers have purchased laser safety eyewear appropriate for laser, and then avoid reflect material on working table or in the workplace, and then ensure that laser area has appropriate sign in and around it to prevent unwary intruders from being injured by entering unprotected. And then lastly, procure and install laser safety equipment that can help the workers from the laser. Okay, next is video display terminal. Video display terminal, which is VDT, are widely used in the modern workplace. Like us as students also use the VDT. The level are well below established standard. The operating VDT are like any form of sustained physical or mental work may lead to visual, muscular, or mental fatigue. So to avoid the VDT, we need the rest change in work to delay the onset of the fatigue are necessary. So the job has been designed. The employees should have the very type of task, like they have the VDT task and have the non-VDT task, so it can help them to avoid this non-ionizing radiation. Okay, lastly is radio frequency and microwave. Radio frequency and microwave radiation are electromagnetic radiation in the frequency range of 3 kHz to 300 GHz. Microwave radiation is considered a subset of radio frequency radiation, although an entity convention treats radio frequency and microwave radiation as two special or spectral regions. Okay, the microwave occupies the spectral region between 300 GHz and 300 MHz, whereas the radio frequency include 300 MHz to 3 kHz. Radio frequency and microwave radiation are non-ionizing in their sufficient energy, less than 10 electron volt, so to atoms. Okay, here there are some pictures that show us the effect when we use the cell phone device and Wi-Fi that can exposing us to harmful level of electromagnetic radiation. So we can see that how the effect from using the phone device and Wi-Fi before use and after 15 minutes on use the cell phone, so it becomes dangerous for us, so we need to prevent this happen to us. Okay, that's all from us. Thank you.